Finding safe and effective medications to treat anxiety is nearly impossible. And the medications that are effective are addictive and have negative long-term health effects. So what can we do? In this video, I'm sharing 4 effective methods to help reduce your anxiety without medication. And as a survivor of debilitating anxiety, I'm sharing things that have personally worked for me. And as a nurse, I'm sharing things that are backed by science. Could the simplest, most natural act be the key to reducing your anxiety and bringing you deep calm? I'm talking about breathing, specifically the extended exhale breathing. By prolonging our exhale, we are stimulating the vagus nerve, which helps our system get into the parasympathetic response and the rest and digest response, which brings our heart rate down. How you do this is by lengthening the exhale. So if you were to breathe in for a count of 4, you'd want to exhale and count to at least 6 and even 8 if possible. And what this does is going to reduce your heart rate. It helps counteract the hyperventilation that we might get into. And that's really like more quick, rapid, more shallow breathing that you might get into in a state of anxiety. And this prolonged out breath then gets you back into that parasympathetic state, reduces your heart rate, and brings calm to your body. One of the ways that I practice this elongated exhale breathing is by also including a visualization. And the visualization that I have used is of waves crashing on the beach. And the way I use this visualization is I imagine the wave crashing on the beach. And I don't know if you've ever seen this, but how the water, once it gets to the sand and the beach, it just keeps rising and rising and rising and rising quietly before it recedes back into the wave. And so I think of my out breath as that water rising and rising and rising and rising and rising. And I try to keep my out breath going as long as I possibly can, really till I'm completely, like almost out of breath. And that brings me to an incredibly relaxed state. Hi, I'm Kristen. Years ago, I left a toxic marriage. And it took me getting out of that marriage to realize that I'd repeated the cycles of emotional abuse and neglect in my childhood in my marriage. And after that marriage and that abuse, I ended up with anxiety, depression, PTSD, an anxious attachment style, and codependence. And now I'm combining my personal experience with over 30 years of experience as a registered nurse and nurse educator to teach you the things that I've learned so that you can heal too. How can simply paying attention to the present moment change your brain and reduce your anxiety? The second method is mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness is being present in the current moment and paying attention to what you're feeling and sensing and thinking without interpretation or judgment. Meditation often uses breathing methods or guided imagery to relax the mind and body. Consistent practice can actually lead to changing your brain, and that is by reducing the size of the amygdala. And the amygdala is the part of our brain that feels fear. Meditation can also teach you to see your anxious thoughts without fear and without judgment, because it puts kind of like a buffer between you and the thought. We learn as we meditate more that we don't necessarily have to grab onto and grip to every thought that comes by. We just kind of watch them flow through and don't look at them with judgment and don't necessarily attach too deeply to the thoughts. This has been the most powerful aspect of mindfulness for me in learning meditation and practicing mindfulness. It has given me an ability to kind of see my own thoughts as an outside observer. And if you have the ability to do that, kind of see your thoughts from the outside, you're less likely to get wrapped up inside of them. And you're more likely to be able to say, you notice it, you see it, but you don't necessarily have to grip to it or respond to it immediately. I use the Headspace app for meditation, and I really like that app. They also have a YouTube page that's got a lot of free meditations on it. So I recommend that you go there to check it out. There's also, if you type in the word meditation on YouTube, there are so many options for you to try. If you prefer to do a guided meditation or anything that would include visualizations and things like that, there's all kinds of different meditations you can try. I wanted to take a moment and let you know that I've created a mental health resource guide that contains information about all the things that I've done over the past several years to heal myself. And I want to share those things with you so that you can heal too. There's a link in the description. If you click it, I will send it to you for free. The next method to reduce our anxiety is regular movement or exercise. And this really helps. I know for myself that if I'm exercising regularly, my mood and my energy is so much better. And I really notice when I, fall off the wagon and I stop exercising, I get crabby. I'm less patient and all of those kinds of things. So I really recommend this. One of the things that I do is I have a walking pad that I walk on during my workday. I work from home and I use that walking pad. And that really helps me get my walking in every day. It doesn't have to be anything super intense, but find something that works for you that you can do regularly. A book that I regularly recommend to people is this book, the Burnout book, and it was written by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. They're sisters. Anyway, recommend this book. This book really talks about how, as people, particularly women in our current day society, we are being exposed to so much stress on a day-to-day basis that we end up with this overwhelming amount of cortisol that we have to actually burn. It kind of piles up over time if we're not burning it off, if we're not kind of processing the cortisol in our system. And exercise is one of the ways to burn off that cortisol. This book and the book on the screen is actually a newer version of it, but this book tells you about several different ways that you can help burn off that extra cortisol. Exercise, of course, being one of them. So I recommend this book. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. If any of this information is resonating with you and you're finding it helpful, it would be amazing if you click the like button. That really helps to ensure that more people get to see this. And leave me a comment. If there's something that you've been doing that has really helped to reduce your anxiety, leave a comment and share it with all of us. And the last method is cognitive behavioral therapy. This type of therapy teaches you practical skills like restructuring your thought patterns and exposure therapy. You can do cognitive behavioral therapy, of course, with an individual therapist. But I'm also sharing this book with you called Embracing the Fear. It was written by Judith Bemis and Amar Barada. And this book walks you through 14 different steps to help treat your anxiety. And the steps that they're using really is the same thing that you would learn in cognitive behavioral therapy. So this is a book that you can read and practice the skills on your own. I recently did a video where I did a deeper dive on some of the concepts that are shared in this book. And I'm linking that video here, so you should go watch that next.